Welcome to Inside News. I'm Serena. Tonight, on this October 14th, 2025, a fragile peace in the Middle East is tested just hours after it begins. Russia unleashes a new wave of attacks on Ukraine as European support falters. And political crises grip two African nations. Plus, the underreported stories shaping our world, from a massive crackdown on global cybercrime to a bold plan to electrify Hong Kong's iconic taxis. Our lead stories tonight begin in the Middle East, where the ink is barely dry on a historic ceasefire deal for Gaza. But the reality on the ground is already challenging the promises of peace. After 2 years of devastating war, a U.S. brokered agreement brought scenes of both joy and apprehension. In Israel, families celebrated the emotional return of the final 20 living hostages held by Hamas. In Gaza and the West Bank, massive crowds welcomed home nearly 2,000 Palestinian prisoners freed from Israeli jails. The deal, signed at a summit in Egypt, was hailed by U.S. President Donald Trump as the historic dawn of a new Middle East. But that dawn is already clouded by a bitter dispute. The deal required Hamas to return the remains of 28 deceased hostages. So far, only 4 have been handed over. Israel has called this a violation and has retaliated by closing the Rafah border crossing, cutting off a vital lifeline for humanitarian aid to Gaza's 2.2 million people, many of whom are facing famine. The move turns desperately needed aid into a political weapon and serves as the first major test of the fragile truce. The ceasefire itself remains on a knife's edge. Israeli forces have pulled back, but still control over half of the Gaza Strip, and have already killed at least 6 Palestinians for allegedly crossing into restricted zones. Meanwhile, Hamas fighters are re-emerging on the streets, deploying security forces, and reportedly carrying out public executions of alleged collaborators. A clear signal that they have not been defeated and that their disarmament, a core Israeli demand, is, in their words, out of the question. We move now to Europe, where the war in Ukraine has entered a grim new phase. As winter approaches, Russia has intensified its campaign to plunge the country into darkness. Overnight, a massive barrage of powerful glide bombs and drones struck Ukraine's second-largest city, Kharkiv. The attack targeted energy infrastructure, but also hit the city's main hospital, wounding 7 people and forcing the evacuation of patients into the cold night. This is a deliberate strategy to break civilian morale by weaponizing the winter. In a brazen act, Russian drones also attacked a clearly marked United Nations aid convoy in the south, though thankfully no one was injured. The assault comes as Ukraine faces a crisis in support from its allies. New data reveals that military aid from European partners has plunged by 43% in recent months, leaving Ukrainian forces dangerously exposed. This has forced President Volodymyr Zelensky to make a direct appeal to Washington. He is scheduled to meet with President Trump this Friday to request long-range Tomahawk cruise missiles, a potential game-changer that could strike deep within Russia, but also a move that carries a significant risk of escalating the war. Staying in Europe, thousands of workers have brought the Greek capital to a standstill. In Athens, a 24-hour general strike, the second this month, disrupted public transport and ferry services to the islands. Unions are protesting a new labor law that would allow for 13-hour workdays. They are demanding the law be scrapped, the work week be shortened, and wages be increased to cope with the rising cost of living. From Europe to Africa, where leadership is being challenged and political stability is fracturing. In Madagascar, a full-blown political crisis is unfolding. President Andry Rajoelina has reportedly fled the country and dissolved parliament from an undisclosed location. This comes after weeks of massive youth-led protests demanding his resignation. In a stunning turn, an elite military unit that once backed the president has now sided with the protesters, and the army says it has taken control of the nation. And in Cameroon, a tense political standoff is brewing. Opposition candidate Issa Chiroma Bakary has unilaterally declared himself the winner of the recent presidential election. He is calling on the 92-year-old incumbent, Paul Biya, to step down after 43 years in power. The move is a direct challenge to one of Africa's longest-serving leaders and sets the stage for a period of intense uncertainty. Next, developments in the Americas, where a political shutdown in the U.S. is deepening, and natural disasters have left a trail of death and destruction. The U.S. government shutdown is now approaching 2 weeks, and its impact is escalating dramatically. The Trump administration has begun mass layoffs of federal employees, with over 4,000 workers already fired from key departments like Treasury and Education. The move, stemming from a stalemate over healthcare subsidies, is turning a temporary funding gap into a permanent reduction of the government workforce, disrupting essential services across the country. Meanwhile, the hemisphere has been battered by extreme weather. In Mexico, catastrophic flooding and landslides from torrential rains have killed at least 64 people, with another 65 still missing. In the U.S. state of Alaska, the remnants of Typhoon Hwasong have left 1 person dead and 2 missing after unleashing hurricane-force winds. And in Venezuela, the same rains triggered the collapse of a gold mine, killing at least 14 miners in the poorly regulated facility. Our focus shifts to the Asia-Pacific, where the economic rivalry between the world's 2 superpowers is heating up once again. The US-China trade war has escalated. Both nations have imposed new port fees on each other's ships. The conflict intensified after Beijing announced new export controls on rare earth minerals, materials essential for everything from smartphones to defense technology. President Trump swiftly retaliated, threatening to impose a new 100% tariff on all Chinese goods. Despite the tough talk, high-level diplomacy is still on the table, with a potential meeting between President Trump and Chinese President Xi Jinping planned for later this month. This growing tension provides a backdrop for North Korea's latest show of force. At a massive military parade in Pyongyang, the regime unveiled a new, more powerful intercontinental ballistic missile, the Hwasong-20. The parade was attended by high-level officials from Russia and China, a clear demonstration of a strengthening alliance aimed at countering U.S. influence in the region. That concludes our main coverage. Now, stories that need your attention. Now we turn to stories that receive insufficient attention but carry significant consequences. We begin in Africa, where beyond the political turmoil, a quiet transformation is underway. The World Health Organization and the European Union have launched a major partnership to digitize health systems across sub-Saharan Africa. The €8 million initiative will create modern, interoperable health records to improve daily care and better prepare the continent for future pandemics. At the same time, the African Union has kicked off Africa Skills Week in Ethiopia, launching a decade-long strategy to equip millions of young people with the digital and green skills needed for the future economy. Moving to Europe, a top official has issued a stark warning about the continent's own security. The EU's Defense Commissioner, Andrius Kubilius, stated bluntly that Europe is not ready for a major military conflict. He revealed that Russia now outproduces all NATO members in ammunition, and that the EU's own defense industry has only half the capacity it needs. His warning is a wake-up call for the continent to urgently rebuild its military strength. This comes as a new report raises alarm over the state of civil liberties within Western democracies, finding that the right to protest has come under sustained attack in the UK, US, France, and Germany, particularly targeting pro-Palestinian demonstrations. Staying with underreported news, we move to the Americas, where law enforcement and science are tackling very different challenges. A massive joint operation by the US and the UK has targeted global cybercrime rings based in Southeast Asia. The crackdown is aimed at dismantling industrial-scale scam operations, some of which use human trafficking and modern slavery to defraud victims of billions of dollars. One targeted group alone laundered over $4 billion, including funds from North Korean state-sponsored hackers. On a more hopeful note, scientists in Maryland are using artificial intelligence to save endangered species. Machine learning software is helping biologists analyze vast amounts of audio data to track the recovery of bat populations devastated by disease. The technology offers a powerful new tool in the global fight to protect biodiversity. Finally, developments in the Asia-Pacific are reshaping the region's future. While the world watches the US and China, a significant peace deal is taking shape in Southeast Asia. The leaders of Cambodia and Thailand are set to sign the Kuala Lumpur Accord to end a deadly border dispute, with US President Trump scheduled to personally oversee the ceremony at the upcoming ASEAN summit. The region is also experiencing an economic boom in an unexpected sector. A new report projects the Asia-Pacific casino gambling market will more than double to $185 billion within the next decade, fueled by a rising middle class. And in Hong Kong, a new initiative aims to put 5,000 new electric taxis on the city's streets, a massive leap forward in the push for green transportation in the dense urban hub. From the high-stakes diplomacy of a ceasefire to the quiet, determined work of scientists and innovators, today's events show that the most important stories are often found just beyond the headlines. We believe these stories, both big and small, deserve your attention. Thank you for joining us for Inside News. I'm Serena. Good journey to all.